Wow, that's out there. Yeah, the New York group was Fred Koch, and there was Angelo, and oh boy, I can't remember the guys. Those were in Daytech, but yeah, Special Services, and their counterpart to us was NTech, and I think they called them Tier 4 over there, but we were Tier 3. Doing all the digital stuff. We did analog circuits only when it was a mess, when nobody else could figure it out. And some of the customers were really, really smart. But yeah, George, you definitely bringing in your own test gear. The pair gain HDSL stuff. I go out on it all the time, and the Verizon guys didn't have a laptop or any kind of interface to get in there and read the margins. So one of the guys in our group, his dad worked for the Bell Company and got us those round keys to open up the boxes. So I'd routinely go in there and check the margins and see the error count and all that stuff, loop them up, whatever I wanted to do, and close up before the tech would show up. Well, it got to the point where we had all these tickets that were open and closed. 22 times the ticket would open and close because they got rated on how quick they closed it, not how good they closed it. And eventually I said to my boss, we should really go to Verizon and end this crap. And he said, you want to go? I'm like, yeah. So my next level and we drove to New York to Pearl Street, and we met with Craig Soloff, who was the 5th level, and the underlings. And I had this big box of all these tickets, and I slam it down on this huge conference table. I go, you guys have any idea what it costs to make a pile of paper like this? And they assigned the guy under him, I forgot his name, a ticket series, the 3 letters of his name and the ticket. And then I'd go out on a trouble, and I'd, eventually want to get into it, and the check would go, you can't get in there. And so call up your next level, and then they'd go, get on the phone and go, yeah, let him in the circuit. I ended up in these CEVs, these undergrounds, shooting these things. I'd be on the call the next day, and I'd go, I was in the underground. They'd go, you weren't in the underground. Yeah, I was in it. You couldn't have been. I go, 3rd rack on the end, up top. That's where your stuff was. And it was great fun. I really enjoyed it until WorldCom cooked the books, so they get rid of all the Tier 3. And one of the best jobs I ever had in my life suddenly went away. And Channel Master Clark, I'll take my chances with you.
Well then, Chris, as they say in the vernacular, here she comes.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, man, it was your turn. Yeah, it's interesting, Larry. You were parallel lives. I was with GE, which later became Harris, which later became MACOM from the late 80s to the mid-90s. I had a GE two-way radio franchise I was part owner of, and it came with the state police contract. And the New York State Police, even just for the one troop that I took care of, Troop K, they had hundreds of miles of tie lines between the various barracks, transmitter sites, and troop headquarters. And at one time we even had stuff going up to headquarters in Albany. And all the long line stuff was AT&T, and the local stuff eventually became Verizon, New York Tel to Verizon. And I went and I had that key, that round key, and I went in their stuff all the time because they were sending me dial tone guys. I had my employer later on when I went to work for Motorola, doing pretty much the same thing. Had them buy me a bunch of HP 4935 TIM sets. Gave them, one to me and one to my most trusted other techs, so we could go out. We could call in a ticket, or we would go out and we would do an end-to-end on the line, put in a ticket on it, and we'd be there and done, verifying before they ever even showed up. And a couple of times we'd have many times we'd have customer meets, and in the last 10 years, after they let all those tier 3 or 4 people go at Verizon, they were sending us people that were trained to fix POTS lines. And I had one guy actually tell me, he's messing with his TIM set. He says, "Do you know how to work this thing?" I said, "Yeah, get out of the way, I'll do it for you."
Yeah, I didn't do the POTS lines too often, but every so often I would get a sub-rate circuit we'd have to work on. And on the T1 stuff, there was all these patterns, 1 in 8, 1 in 3, 2 in 24, whatever it was, and quasi. But I liked, just monitoring it with their traffic, because that was where the complaint was. And one of the guys in our group made something. His name was Al Baxis, and he actually contributed to the RFC for Q931. Relay ISDN, which turned into voice over IP. And please don't say VoIP, because that drives you up a friggin' wall. But he made something called the Baxis box. So when you got to the circuit, you didn't want to open and disrupt the circuit too often. You get there, you break it once, and you put his device in there, which had 4 monitor points, and you could just change test sets, and they're like 20 down or something like that. Simple thing, but it was just great to have those monitor points in there. But I was on a circuit once at a bank, and I always wanted to know what an ATM transaction looked like. And we had these things called Agilent Advisors. They used to call it the Internet Advisor. Then they called it the Advisor. It was basically like a laptop with a T1 interface and different kind of interfaces, optical interfaces. And it would break down the protocol. Everything that Wireshark does now, back then cost $30,000 in one of these advisors. And eventually they gave me the voice over IP module, which actually would synthesize the voice, which was dangerous because we were recording it. We had to make new rules. But I digress. So I'm at the bank, and I'm monitoring the circuit, and all of a sudden I see this car drive off. I'm like, holy crap, someone used the ATM. So I stop the analyzer, I go back, and I want to see the transaction, because I'm wondering, geez, if you got on that circuit and you kept hitting that same thing, play it over and over, would it just start spitting out money? So I'm looking for the transaction, and I can't find it. I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see it. I see echo request with a payload. The transaction, I swear to God, I don't know if it is now, but back then, it was in a ping. It was the payload of a ping was the ATM transaction. Over.
Oh, that's interesting stuff. That's a little outside of my line, but very interesting. God, our friend Paul W2BP passed away in the basement of a bank working on a circuit about 6-7 years ago, I guess 10 years ago. Which is rather unfortunate. He was alone in the bank at night. They found him in the morning. Hey, George, check your email. I sent you something. It's just a quick audio recording, but it's really going to surprise you.
The email from you, but I'm getting ready to shut. I'm actually going to shut it down and sign on this one. Dinner has slid down far enough that I can get myself horizontal. And I thought, first of all, on my QRZ page, with the picture of Paul, I have the date that he passed away. And I could tell you it was this month. It's actually coming up on his anniversary. It's March 29th, 7 years ago. So the day after tomorrow will be 7 years that Paul passed away. And I thought he passed away in the utility closet at a Catholic high school in New Jersey.
Well, I heard it was a bank. Okay, I could be wrong, but that's what I heard at the time. Well, that email, you got to listen to the audio attachment. If you didn't, it's going to really surprise you.
I will definitely. I'll tomorrow morning when I go down to my office, I usually do some personal, email stuff before I actually work. I'm a little too tired right now, but I will check it out and I'll email you back for sure. And I'm going to say 7-3 to you and Larry and Clark, and tomorrow is another day. Adios, muchachos. N2LJO.
The finest business evening ever, again.
Yeah, good night, George. 7-3. We'll catch up with you tomorrow, hopefully. Oh, I'm going to be around 40 meters tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to be, excuse me, I'm going to be on the loose in the JBL high power